On the road to Macstock with Bryan Pearce. This is MacVoices. This week's MacVoices is supported by Kolide. Kolide is an endpoint solution that uses the most powerful untapped resource in IT, end users. Learn more at kolide.com/MacVoices. Welcome to MacVoices. This is the talk of the Apple community, and I'm Chuck Joyner. Folks, I know what one of the highlights of my summer is going to be, and that is going to a Macstock conference and Expo at the end of July. I can't wait because we always get to see old friends. We get to meet new friends, get to hear some great presentations, and just in general have a great time. So this is a Road to Macstock show, and that means we're going to be talking to Bryan Pearce about his upcoming session at Macstock. Bryan, welcome to MacVoices. It's great to talk to you for the very first time.
Thank you, Chuck. Appreciate you having me on.
Well, thank you for doing this. So I guess, the first question I'd like to ask beyond what you're going to be presenting is, why did you want to be a Macstock presenter?
I really loved the whole concept of Macstock and being able to get together with like-minded folks in the Apple community. And having attended, I think 3 of the past events, I really enjoyed it. I thought that I might be able to bring something to the presenters podium and share some of the experiences that I've had with the platform, and that's really what I'm looking forward to doing, and hearing some feedback and always learning new ways to do things. So,
that's great. That's great. So, what is your I guess professional background?
Well, I started out my education is in computer science and mathematics, and I was really captured early on by the Apple II. And I started really doing a lot with Apple BASIC, and really just kind of followed the development of the platform over time. In the early 90s, I started a business where we were an Apple VAR, which meant that we were able to sell Apple hardware and provide solutions around those hardware systems that we were providing people, kind of a A to Z solution for people and businesses. And so we went through that whole the mid 90s and the lean times that Apple experienced, and just again, I've always been a big supporter of the platform and of the technology. So that's where I started, and I've stayed with it. Over the years, as Apple has evolved and they've gotten in their own retail stores, we don't do anything with hardware anymore, but there is still a need for people to provide solutions and to support the systems that they have. So I still enjoy it. I love doing it, and hope to do it for a long time yet.
It's funny. I know we've talked a lot about it here on the show forever, and the topic always seems to come up whenever you get about 3 or more Apple enthusiasts together, that there's something about the platform. It's, if you get it, you get it. It doesn't need to be explained to you. You understand. And if you don't, I don't know. I don't know if it's genetic or what, but it just, it's really interesting. Again, you are another one who, got infected in the early days and just kept right on going and doesn't want to give it up.
Yeah, for sure. And, it's funny. There used to be, I grew up in the Chicagoland area, so I wasn't far from where Macstock is held. And there was a columnist for the Chicago Tribune, and his name was Jim Coates. And he was, so Windows biased. I mean, it was unbelievable, right? And that was the time of the Holy Wars in the 90s, and so I just remember, constantly going back and forth with him via email about why what he was saying was just so one-sided and wrong, and trying to smash some of those misconceptions about the platform. Thankfully, that's not something that we have to do anymore because of how things have evolved. But that was an interesting time for sure.
That's a really interesting point to bring up, that back then you did feel like you had to correct. You were absolutely obligated to correct people when they made misstatements about the platform. Now, there's still some for some older folks that, are in business and all, I still think some of those perceptions are there, but they don't seem to be nearly as well entrenched, and people seem to be a lot more open to being educated about the benefits of a lot of platforms, not just Windows or Mac, but also iPad, Android. Pick a platform for a device, and you'll find somebody out there that's interested and willing to argue the merits or demerits of each.
Sure. Yep. Absolutely.
So what are you going to be presenting? What are you going to bring to Macstock?
So I mentioned that, I was really enamored by the platform in the beginning. And I always wanted to, as I got into business, I found that, people wanted to, they were satisfied with allowing the Mac to be a client to things. And I always felt like I wanted the Mac to be the server of things, to have the data and have the information and be able to do the server all the way to the desktop, a complete Apple solution. And so I got into databases early on. I really enjoy the challenges of data modeling and coming up with efficient structures for things. And over the years, I found that so many people will use a tool like a spreadsheet as if it were a database. And I think that there's a lot of time and effort that can be saved by starting with the right tool from the beginning. So we're going to talk a little bit about the differences between the two, why you would want to use one over the other, and then jump into some examples within a FileMaker, which is what I develop in these days.
Today's MacVoices is supported by Kolide. Kolide is an endpoint security solution that uses the most powerful untapped resource in IT, end users. Old-school device management tools like MDMs force disruptive agents onto employee devices that slow performance and treat privacy as an afterthought. Kolide does things differently, though. Instead of forcing changes on users, Kolide notifies your team via Slack when their devices are insecure and gives them step-by-step instructions on how to solve the problem. For IT admins, Kolide provides a single dashboard that lets you monitor the security of your entire fleet, whether they're running on Mac, Windows, or Linux. That visibility makes it easy to prove compliance to your auditors, customers, and leadership. And by reaching out to employees via a friendly Slack message, Kolide can help you build a culture in which everyone contributes to security. You can meet your compliance goals today by putting users first. Visit kolide.com/MacVoices to find out how. That's Kolide, KOLIDE.com/MacVoices. Thanks to Kolide for supporting this week's MacVoices. This is really interesting because we recently had on a MacVoices live show a brief discussion about the fact that databases as databases seem to have disappeared. They seem to have become hidden behind applications that put a specialized interface on them, but they're still database-driven activities in the background. And FileMaker is one that I know I've used for a long time. I abandoned it at one point because I was finding out dedicated applications that made up for it. But FileMaker is obviously it has an Apple basis, and it is a phenomenally powerful program.
Yes, and now there's been some interesting announcements by Claris within the last couple of months that make it even more compelling to be able to jump into the platform and actually experiment with things. For example, they're going to be allowing, starting in I believe September, free access to the platform for a single user, which is pretty amazing, given the history of how much they've charged for a single copy of FileMaker and that sort of thing. But more on that to come. But it's really exciting that we'll have access to those tools and the technology.
I had not heard that, and that would be phenomenal. Simply because FileMaker is very powerful. There's a bit of a learning curve to it, and but to give it free access for individuals would be absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah, and that's part of a product that they're rolling out called Filemaker Studio, which is going to act as a web interface, if you will, to your database. One of the challenges, if you created a database and you wanted to put it online, you either had to rent a server or you had to do something. You had to have your own server. But with Filemaker Studio, they're going to open that up so that you can actually build and test your solution and only start to pay once you begin to add users to that solution, which is pretty amazing.
Yeah, because for so many reasons, not the least of which this would incur, I think, FileMaker database development by folks who aren't sure if they're going to be able to produce a viable product, or don't have the customer for it yet. But if they can build it for free, that's terrific.
Yeah. I feel like they're taking the same kind of a roadmap that you can with Apple developer tools. You can download all that and use it for free, and then you just pay that percentage through the App Store. And it almost feels to me like FileMaker is taking that same path where here's all the tools, build your solution, but you don't incur a cost until you actually deploy it, and hopefully, are able to earn some revenue from that.
So do you plan to be building databases on stage to show people how it works? How do you expect to present it?
Sure. One of the first session, I think there's only about 20 minutes. So that's going to be mostly discussion and presentation, some background information. But then in that 40-minute deep dive, we'll look at FileMaker, we'll do some data modeling, and a couple of sample solutions. So people will get a good sense of how things work and what some of the power is in the platform.
I love this. I love this because databases, again, have kind of faded from sight behind the facade of different applications. So now you'll be showing people how they can build something that suits them right from the ground up, no matter how sophisticated or how simple.
Yeah, and the great thing about it is, which Chuck, is that FileMaker has it can live on your iPhone, it can live on an iPad, it can live on your desktop, or now in the cloud. So really, no matter where you want to deploy your data, you have the ability to do that.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Well, I will look forward to seeing you at McHenry County College with with Mike Potter and the rest of the Macstock gang.
For sure.
In the meantime, what's the best place for folks to maybe contact you if they have questions or want to ask questions before your session?
All my contact information is on the website. It's www.denebcorp.com. And from there, my number, email address, everything is on that site. So
excellent. Bryan, it's great to see you. I look forward to getting to shake hands in person at Macstock, and hey, we're going to have some fun.
I agree. Thank you, Chuck. Appreciate it.
Folks, I'm Chuck Joyner. This is MacVoices. It is far from too late for you to join us in Woodstock, in Illinois at Macstock. Macstock Conference and Expo is where you go to register to get all the information to make a hotel reservation, so you're there for the whole show and can get to enjoy not only the day's activities, but always the informal evening activities. Those are always at least as much fun. Until the next time, and as always, thanks for watching. Visit MacVoices.com for show notes and to connect with Chuck on social media. Get involved in our Facebook group or like our Facebook page, and get more out of your Apple tech with MacVoices Magazine, free on Flipboard and on the web. And if you find value in it all, consider supporting us through either our Patreon campaign at patreon.com/MacVoices, or by making a one-time donation via the PayPal link on our front page and in the show notes of each episode. You will join these fine people who help bring you MacVoices. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media at backbeatmedia.com. Bandwidth provided by CashFly at cashfly.com.